Microsoft Azure load balancers. Guys, why I'm smiling right now? Because I really want someone should be there in my life to balance my load. It's not just about the professional load or my family load, it's also about the YouTubers load. The reason why is because I also received a call today from one of the subscriber from Australia. Thank you, Nadim. I really appreciate your call. And he gave us a feedback and especially give me the feedback that Harsh, it would be really good that if you create and finish these videos in anytime soon, because most of people are really waiting for these videos, and maybe somebody like to give the examination, or maybe they have something to do with their job. So it would be really appreciated if I complete these all the videos in quick time. So I give the answers, guys. It's very difficult for me because I'm not just a full-time YouTuber. I really want to be a full-time YouTuber. I like to tell you the truth. But the thing is, I also need to take care of the family. So I don't have any other source or income so that I can comply with my professional life. So the thing is, I have to spend around 12 hours with my professional life, and then around 2 hours with my family life, and rest of the time I sleep. Why? Because I'm working during the night hours, and I think all of you do understand that if you're working in the whole night, because my working hours are Calgary time, Canada time. It starts exactly at 7:30 p.m. to the morning 5:30 a.m. So it's kind of like the whole night. So basically why I really give this example to you, because whenever we talk about the Microsoft Azure or cloud infrastructure, or in case if any of the organization is planning to move their web applications or maybe their web servers, they always have to think about one thing, that okay, I have no problem if I deploy one single server in Microsoft Azure, because Microsoft's infrastructure or Azure infrastructure does give you that powerful machines, or you can say the compute system, which can actually handle lots of requests. But I'm right now talking about billions of requests at the same time on the same server. So guys, it's really not a good idea to send all of these requests to one single web application server. And why is that? Let me give you one example. Imagine that you deploy one of the web server, or consider that your website on one of these servers, and you are receiving billion requests at the same time, because lots of people like you, or I mean your website, and they know that how much they love your products, how much they love to move from one page to another within your website, because they could find something very useful to their life. So right now 1 billion requests, absolutely good, no worries at all. I'm imagining right now, although it is not a good presentation in terms of deploying your web server, but I'm just giving you one example, and you can assume that 1 billion request is currently handled by your one web server. That's absolutely fine. Now imagine I'm a hacker or somebody else is hacker. I'm not a bad hacker. First of all, I'm a good engineer in terms of protecting those workloads. You can say that, and you can imagine me to start protecting all these things in on these applications or resources very soon in Microsoft Azure, because guys, we are going to start security training very soon after just completion of this AZ900. Anyway, so I was saying that imagine that you start receiving 1 billion requests on that web server, and somebody else sitting on the on the competitor, or maybe some bad guys, they really want to attack on your servers. And one of the very common attack they could use is DDoS, which we called dynamic denial of service attacks, which means they can actually bombarding, they can send lots of requests at the same time, and these are not the legitimate requests, these are the fake requests. And the whole purpose here is send extra traffic request on your servers, and automatically at the end of the day your server feel so much load on it, and maybe it's gonna be break down at some point, or maybe your website is not able to work, or maybe your server itself is gonna be shut down because of that much load on your, maybe the CPU, maybe RAM, maybe your network interface, whatever you can think of about these kind of attacks. So to avoid this kind of problem, what usually all of these organizations do is they create actually multiple servers for the same thing. For example, you have a website and they create multiple servers where the same website is currently hosted. Now, one thing is you can assign a separate IP address for all of these machines, which usually you do. But the problem is when you actually publish your website somewhere on the internet, then you need to assign a single IP address or single point of contact so that the request will be redirected to that same website, because here you do not have a different website, right? You are just handling the same website, and the purpose here is if you actually create multiple servers for the same website, so you are planning to receive a request simultaneously on these all three servers. For example, if very first person send a request, it comes to this server. If the second person send a request, I'm assuming these all things, I'm just giving you one example, so don't think over on this. I'm just trying to give you one simple example. And let's say if the third person is sending a request to access the website, the request will be automatically goes to this server. That's my ultimate goal, and this is my expectation from the deployment stuff. So guys, what you need to do for that, how you're going to achieve that, the best way is to deploy a load balancer, or in terms of Microsoft Azure, we have Azure Load Balancer. The job is pretty simple. Don't need to think over and don't need to go so much in deep to understand about this topic, although I'll give you much more details. But at the moment, whenever a user send a request over the internet to access that website, then automatically it send a request and say, okay, I got your address, and it's sent to this load balancer, because this load balancer is a public load balancer. Although, just want to give you a brief idea, we have actually two kind of Azure Load Balancer. One is called public load balancer, and another one is called private load balancer. I will explain the difference, but at the moment, just imagine we have a load balancer here, and as soon as they send a receive a request from multiple locations or whatever it is, accordingly this load balancer have a kind of heartbeat system or heart rate system. That's what you can call in general, which means that it will start just capturing information about all these servers in web tier. Now the question is, what is web tier? I will explain that too, so don't worry. Right now, just imagine I have this web tier, which means I have multiple servers, server 1, server 2, and server 3. So all of these three servers keep sending their performance data to this load balancer, and load balancer say, okay, I can see that server 1 is in load, server 2 also is in load, but server 3 is free, right? So as soon as it identified by load balancer, and whenever the new request coming to this load balancer, and it automatically redirect that information to this three server or the third server. That's how it is working in the back end or in the background. That's the job of Azure Load Balancer. That's it. And why you need that? Obviously, just like I said, I also need someone to be available here for me who can guide you, who can teach you just the way I do, and giving 100% or in fact 200% in the training videos. Of course, it's free of cost available to you. And I want such kind of person in my life so that I can focus on my family life, my professional life, and YouTube life should be handled by that guy. But the thing is, it's currently not available for me, such kind of load balancer. I'm right all alone here who is balancing all these things together. But obviously, the problem here with me is I could not spend a lot of time on these videos creation. The reason, guys, I also need to prepare the content and need to make sure I do not left any point, so that you guys may be not aware in your job roles, or maybe if you are planning to give examination, you must be aware about all these parts. I think you get my point here, why we need Azure Load Balancer. Just to give one more last review so that we understood the concept, and then we'll go deep dive and try to explain you in terms of both where you can find these load balancers and what you can just need to remember about the points whenever somebody talk about Azure Load Balancer. Guys, the overall purpose is, if you have have a web server, or consider that a website server, or maybe any other web application, and you have such idea that, okay, whenever I deploy this web application, I think more than 10,000, 20,000, or 1 million, 2 million, 1 billion, 2 billions, that many people are going to touch base on these websites or these web application. So you need to be well prepared that, okay, if you receive that many requests at the same time, definitely you don't want to shut down your servers in any way, because it can actually impact your business directly. So that is something in the mind whenever somebody deploy these load balancers or these web servers. So how your load balancer could help here? Actually, load balancer does receive a kind of a heartbeat or heart rate data information from these old servers and verified which server is currently busy. So which one is not so busy, the load balancer will automatically redirect that information to that server. That's it. That's the job of load balancer. So guys, this is one thing you need to know. But whenever we talk about load balancer, there's another thing you need to keep in your mind, that we have Azure application gateways. Now, what is the meaning of application gateway here? or like I mentioned, is it spatial? Yes, guys, it is a little bit spatial. It does also work like a load balancer, but additionally, it can also provide you additional layer of security, which we called web application firewall. So that's how I created here. This is our web application firewall. So means you can set some rules that, okay, you want to allow only these many people, and certainly these application gateway, most of the organizations are used for their internal purpose, especially nowadays. You know that we are working from anywhere in the world. We have a VPN solutions, we have some direct access solutions, which can allow users to sit anywhere over the internet and they can directly connect to their servers. But again, if you like to filter it out, or you don't want to allow anonymous people or anonymous IP address to directly attack on these servers, then I think you must deploy application gateways there. Now, one example, obviously we have web application firewalls you can enable in this particular service. Another advantage is it does work with the URL path, or you can say URL redirection. Now, what is the meaning of that? I will explain later. But at the moment, for example, you are running multiple servers here. One is for images and one is for video. That's the best example I can give it to you here. So if somebody wants to access images, right? So that request will automatically redirect to that server here. But right now, I am just giving you an example for one server, but obviously you can imagine you don't have one server for images. You have multiple servers or multiple, tiers enabled for your image server. So you have 3 image servers deployed in this area for specifically for images. So if somebody wants to access images, the first request will again goes to first server, the second request goes to second, and the third request goes to third. Here the idea is absolutely same, just like I explained about the Azure Load Balancer. But the good thing is here you can create a tier for a dedicated part of your web server, because here is not the complete web server. Here what you're doing is you are actually creating a high availability for your dedicated image server or video server or maybe game server. So obviously gamer organizations who actually provide 70 million access at the same time. And I think if you are in India, you are watching all ICC World Cup in cricket, and you can imagine in Hotstar online, I have seen that 1 crore, 48 lakhs, 50 lakh people are watching the same match at the same time. So how they are able to achieve that? Because of this kind of deployment, application gateway. Because here what they did is, whoever wants to access a dedicated match for India versus Pakistan, or let's say India versus New Zealand or India versus Australia, they can simply redirect that information to that one of the server or the peers of the server, which is currently available to provide a great performance. And of course you can also watch the Hotstar YouTube video where they have scaled up their deployment. But again, what they did in terms of scaled up, they just deploy additional servers, but over the top of those servers, they have also deployed Azure application gateways, which actually will exactly give you the power to go to the certain URL parameters so that you can access the right resources exactly at the same time. But don't worry, these are just the overview. I will go to a little bit more in detail and try to give you a very easy example, and I'm sure you're going to understand very well. So guys, I think it's pretty much it for in terms of understanding the concept. Let's go a little bit more deep dive in these two topics and try to learn more. All right, so now we are here to understand more on Azure Load Balancer first. Because guys, Azure Load Balancer is a great feature, and I would like to tell you it is highly recommending to make sure that you must be aware about this topic, and you need to know also the technicality to ensure that you understand in terms of deployment, and in fact before deployment, that why you are doing this or what you need to be aware about this particular topic. Although even in the Microsoft website they do mention about whatever you can see right now on my page. But again, it would be really appreciated that if you go back to Microsoft website, where you can simply type Azure Load Balancer and try to find more information in terms of theoretical concept. Although if you know about whatever I mentioned in this video, I think is much more than enough for you to understand about the complete thing about Azure Load Balancer. Yes, in terms of more practical, in-depth practical, I must say, you can cover that topic in AZ104, not in AZ900, because here they're going to ask you some tricky questions that, okay, if you are planning to deploy this scenario, how you're going to use your load balancer, or maybe your load balancer has been deployed, how you identify the request goes to one server to another. Then they provide such metrics in the examination. Then you need to identify which one is less utilized server in overall servers available in that web tier, and accordingly you decide and provide the answers. But here let's try to learn more on Azure Load Balancer. And yeah, before that I forgot to tell you initially. All right guys, so my name is Harsh Jangra, and in this video we will learn two different topics. It's all about load balancer. One is networking load balancer, which is, we called it Azure Load Balancer, and second one is called the application gateway or application load balancer. So I will explain about these two different topics altogether, and I'll be much more confident to say, if you understand this video, that means you are good to go in terms of deployment, because you have a complete idea why you are deploying that solution in your Azure infrastructure. So first of all, why you would like to use Azure Load Balancer. Although I explained already that it provides you a kind of a high availability in terms of these web tiers, because here you can see that I have deployed multiple servers, right? These all servers having or carrying the same website, same web application. The good thing is this load balancer will automatically distribute the information to all the server which is less busy. And how it has been identified by load balancer, I already told you, it's because of the metrics running on these different servers. Because here it is, the information is collected by load balancer, like CPU, like RAM, like disks, network, all these utilization or all these different metrics, and accordingly it will just send a request or distribute the request to to a dedicated server which is currently available to serve all those legitimate requests. Now, obviously, based on this one, you can understand that it is also going to help balancing your network traffic, because here maybe we are receiving back-to-back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 requests. Automatically, this will be sent across all the available devices. And the good thing is, guys, in case, because I don't know, you have this question in your mind, because that's exactly you can find in the real world that right now these 3 servers are available. Now, my organization, imagine, and they are expecting even more web traffic to come across all these servers. So what they usually do, they keep on adding more servers manually, one option, and also they can use VM scale set. I think virtual machine scale set, we have covered that topic initially in AZ900 or in AZ104. I think both of them in terms of practical as well. So as long as you keep increasing or scaled up your infrastructure, then you need to keep adding those IP address or the information of that particular server here in the load balancer, so that this load balancer must be aware that I have a new server available and it can start distributing the request to this new server as well without any hassle. So remember that if you have this question that, okay, Harsh, what about if we keep adding more servers? Then don't worry, you just need to be aware about the IP address or IP address space, and that's what you need to add in the load balancer, and you're good to go. Automatically it has been identified with the help of heartbeat or heart rate, whatever the words people are using in the world. So these 2 ways you can verify which server is currently available and which is not. So which is not, it temporarily verify that, okay, it is not available, then it temporarily lost a connection for some time. You can also decide that after how much try, let's say this load balancer keep trying to verify this server whether it is available or not, or for some reason this is in maintenance, this is not available, so it keep try 1 minute, 2 minutes, or maybe maximum 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, if this server does not respond back to the load balancer, then this load balancer mark this server is not available and notify to the administrator via the notification, or it will retry after, let's say, we can set all these metrics in load balancer, although that's like, for example, after 4 hours, after 2 hours, 3 hours, this load balancer send a request again, or the heartbeat request that, hey, are you available or not? Then this server respond back and said, yeah, I'm available, I'm back from the maintenance, so we are good to go. You can keep sending those requests to me. So that's how this load balancer has identified all these requests and sent across to this web tier. Now, another thing you must be aware, which I mentioned here even more, that how exactly your Azure load balancer verify that, okay, which request is coming to what and where it need to send to which dedicated server, because it could be a possible thing that you have set up not just one server. Maybe this server is for, let's say, images, let's say this server is for videos, and this server is for games, as an example. So again, this load balancer can do the job for you as well, that as long as it just follow this algorithm which we call 5-tuple hash algorithm, where it verify the source IP who actually sent the request, because it could be your internal one, right? So for internal one, you have even more access to the servers, for a general user which does not have any valid network IP address based on your organization. It may be that he or she or that person does not have greatest access to these resources, maybe limited access to the web server, website, or whatever the front facing website people has been deployed for their organization. So that's what you need to remember. Anyhow, these are the things all the time this load balancer verify. First, source IP address, source port, maybe it is coming from 80 port. So as soon as it is coming from 80 port, so load balancer responsibility is to verify whether port number 443 is allowed or port number 80 is allowed, because you can define these things inside a load balancer. If you do not mention 80 port, let's say, then automatically that request will be denied, or that packets will be dropped automatically by Azure Load Balancer. So keep in your mind that part too. So apart from that, also the destination IP address, that what exactly we would like to access. We like to access www.xyz.com or www.abc.com or www.wef.com. So all these things been dependent on this destination IP address or your domain name, whatever you have. And finally, the destination port, because just like I said, which port you like to connect to verify whether this website is running. That's again a kind of a rule, or again a kind of a setting you can configure inside load balancer, and that's how it works for you. Apart from that, the protocol. Why I mentioned protocol? Because this standard load, we called it a standard load balancer as well, because it works on two protocol. One is called TCP and another one is called UDP. So remember this thing, and just to tell you, these both protocols are working on layer 4. You need to also aware that this load balancer is working on a layer 4 as well. Although I do have a plan to explain about layer 4 as well, but I'll do it before to start with the practical. However, I think you grab that much information in your mind at the moment, and there are a couple of additional points I'd like to mention in terms of benefits of using load balancer. The first of all, I already explained high availability. That's a very, very good sign to use, or advantage to use load balancer, because it does not keep hammering one single server. It will distribute your request across all the servers available in that web tier. Advantage again, it will not weaken any of the server. All servers are working in a healthy condition, and everyone's have a great performance in terms of giving experience to the people who is trying to access this web application or website. The another thing is you have a complete control that how do you like to distribute servers. Just like I said, maybe this server is currently not running, or maybe having some maintenance issues, or maybe any other issue, then don't worry. This load balancer will automatically identify that with the help of this heartbeat part, and then it will identify, okay, tell these guys as well that, hey guys, I have lost connection with one server, so I'm going to keep sending those requests to two of you guys, and these two guys really work hard and keep provide support to his friend or his colleague, his mate, that, okay, don't worry guys, you please take care of your health. I'm right here available for you, and I will provide all the health. And this guy said, thank you. I'm so obliged to hear that. And guys, network load balancer we call it Azure Load Balancer, keep sending that information to these servers only. And as soon as this is back, the first one, it actually appreciate to these servers and telling that, hey, I'm available right now, and don't worry, I'll help you from now on. And Load Balancer said, okay, I'm really glad that you're back, and start sending those requests back to the web server 1. That's how it works in terms of control and distribute requests across tier. And of course, scaled up application, just like I said, if you really want to add more servers, yes, you can do that. Another advantage, you can simply add server, add the information of the IP address in the load balancer, you're good to go, and it start automatically distributing those requests to the servers. So what are the key points here to take with you is the 5-tuple hash algorithm used by Azure Load Balancer. So yeah, that's what you need to know at the moment. And yeah, second thing, layer 4. And what are about these all layer 4? Don't worry, I'll explain you right now, and then I'll show you where you can find and what kind of settings you need to keep in your mind in terms of understanding the concept of Azure Load Balancer. So before to jump in to the practical, I'd like to share something about the OSI model, because just like I mentioned, the TCP, UDP, these two different protocols are working on layer 4. So whenever you're trying to learn more on this load balancer, you must be aware that these load balancers are working on which layer of OSI. And why it is important to you? Because it can help you to deploy your infrastructure, and I think you must be very well aware that what is all about these layers, what are the responsibilities of these layers. So I'll give you a quick walkthrough about these layers. If you're already aware, please skip to the practical directly. Otherwise, it would be really good for the people who is doing this IT or the cloud for the first time, or in terms of technology. So I think it would be really helpful to them at the moment. So right now I am on the Wikipedia website, and I just simply open the OSI model, which is pretty easy for you to find out. And if I drag down a bit, because I don't want to go into that much theory part, I like to show you this particular thing, which is being mentioned right now: application, presentation, session, transport, network, data, and physical. So guys, when we calculate layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5, layer 6, and layer 7, remember that it always starts from physical, not from application, not from up to the bottom. It's from bottom to the up. So the first layer would be a physical layer, which is just like responsible for, or you can say it's a hardware based thing, which this layer does not understand what kind of data it is. It simply just understands 0101, or just responsible for to sending or transmitting your data with the help of wires or wireless, whatever you can think of. The second layer we have is a data link layer, which actually creates the frame, or we also called encapsulation, that process, which means that it just have the information about the MAC address, which actually attached into that information. And just like to mention that, okay, this is the dedicated hardware. Maybe it's a mobile phone, maybe it's a laptop, maybe it's a desktop, because we all identified those information via these MAC addresses. So once this information been added into a kind of a frame, then it's sent back to the third layer, which is a network layer. And here a packet has been actually created, though this packet consume information like source IP address, source port, and destination IP address, all these information right under one packet. Then the layer 4, exactly this layer 4 we are talking about today, that is Azure load balancer. So here we have this segmentation process with the help of TCP, UDP, all these protocol been working here, because it just allows you to create a reliable transmission from one to another location. So anyway, it just collects all this information along with the previous information from network, data, and physical. And finally, it goes to the next one, the session layer, which is responsible for the communication overall. Once it goes there, it just verify, okay, that communication is coming from this place. Then it's sent back to the presentation, because these data is currently in a unreadable format, but presentation layer allows you to make sure that you are able to read that information correctly, or you can say decrypting your data absolutely in a fine state. So presentation layer can help you to do that. And finally, we have the application layer, which means on this layer, a kind of the application is working, or APIs, which is called application programming interfaces, are working. So what is the responsibility for this application is to just show you the final result. That's all about the layers. So right now, just for the quick idea, layers 4 is responsible for Azure load balancer. Just keep in your mind. Although I request you to please go through this link and try to learn more. However, I'm not going to bore you to give so much in theoretical concepts. So let's jump on the practical and try to gather more information that how exactly we configure the network load balancer, or we call it Azure load balancer, and how it is going to help us in terms of the deployment. So guys, for that, let me bring you the portal first. So yeah, finally we are on the portal, and yeah, we are going to start with the deployment for network load balancer. And just to keep in your mind that what exactly I have done, I have created at the moment. So you must be aware about this. And obviously, just like I said, AZ900 will give you the complete idea what this is all about and how you can configure. But again, if you really like to learn more and much more in detail feature, I think we better wait for AZ104 videos. However, this video can also cover all the things which is required to deploy network load balancer, or we call it Azure load balancer. But don't forget, I'm not going to cover every single bit of it because it is not required for you guys at the moment. So let's go to the virtual machine, and yeah, but don't feel like that I don't want to share with you. It's just like it is not required at the moment, because I don't want you just spend so much time to understand these advanced topics. That's the point only. All right, guys. So right now, as you can see, I have created two VMs just to give you the brief idea what I have done. I'm assuming this is my web tier, and this is my one server, only one at the moment. And I have another server as well, HAVM2, which is another server. And I'm also assuming that both of these servers are having a same web application or same server. Okay. Although we don't want to tell that to the whole people or to the whole world that this is the same web application being configured on two different servers. Yeah, this is just in between you and your organization. Don't need to share with anyone else. The only thing keep in your mind before to deploy your infrastructure in real world, that when you configure your web tier or these virtual machines, make sure that you have not configured your public IP address on all of these machines, because guys, we are trying to configure at the moment public load balancer. So for public load balancer, the public IP address is gonna be assigned to the load balancer itself. It does not require to configure on your virtual machine. And in fact, if you are planning to do the internal load balancer, that's totally a separate story. The purpose here is that internal load balancer does not communicate or will not communicate with your internet directly. So that's what you need to remember, the difference between internal and the public. And don't worry, when we configure it, you will see those options. So we are at a public, I think you get your point that public IP address is currently not configured on these VMs. Now let's go back to home and try to find Azure load balancer. Let's see if we can find anything. Do we have any load balancer? No. Let me try with just simply load balancers. Yeah, I think you better try with the load balancer. Don't try with Azure load balancers. So here guys, I'm going to choose load balancer, and obviously I have not created any load balancer at the moment. And you can see that we have other options like application gateway. We'll also cover that today. Don't worry. I think this video is going to be a little bit long, and but I think it's fine. And one more thing guys, I'm going to share the link to meet you guys tomorrow on a Google Meet, and it's going to be just half an hour or maximum 45 minutes meet. I'm going to take the question from you if you have any in terms of your career, in terms of your confusion, whether you want to do it or not, and I will try to take as much as question I could take, and obviously I will try to record that session as well, and also share on the channel, so that if you like to see that session, please go ahead. Yeah, anyway, let's come back here and try to start with the load balancer creation. So guys, simply it's very simple. Just hit create. As soon as you hit create, so here's a subscription. So obviously you need to choose the right subscription, because I choose AD Pro at the moment, and resource group I have already created HA, so I created this one, and the name of this load balancer. So I created like test load balancer. You can give any name you like, it's absolutely fine. And region I'm going to create at the moment in the same where my virtual machine has been created. Now guys, SKUs. Now what is SKUs? Just for your knowledge, SKUs are actually a kind of option for you, that which service you like to choose, whether you want a better one, because standard here would have more features as compared to basic. That's what you need to understand at the moment. It's fine for now whether you choose standard or basic, but obviously basic does not have all the features that you're looking for, and standard does have. And whenever Microsoft create or introduced any new feature, you can find exactly the same in the standard one, just for your knowledge. Now that the very important part is the type, whether you want to choose a public one or whether you choose an internal one. Just like I said, public one, when you are planning to introduce your network load balancer to the people over the internet, then only you need to choose public. If you are planning to distribute your load into your internal servers and you don't want to share that information with the external, or I mean internet users, then you have to choose internal one. But right now, as an example, I'm going to choose public one, which is a good sign for practice, this one. And obviously it could be a regional, or it could be deployed any, global, because it's going to be a cross region load balancer, can only be deployed to the home region. So that's what you want to select. It's up to you. So it's fine. Right now it would be regional to me. It's okay, no worries. The next thing is front-end IP address. So let me go to the front-end IP address configuration. Guys, these configuration, you can do it later, but now Microsoft suggests to configure during the time of the deployment. Anyway, let's go with the front-end IP address configuration, because here this front-end IP address would be the public IP address for this load balancer. So click on add front-end IP address configuration. On the right hand side, we have a front-end IP address name. So I'll give the name, for example, LBPIP. That means load balancer public IP address. So it is gonna be IP version 4. IP version type is this one. Public IP address, you can choose whether you want to assign as this existing one or create a new one. So here guys, I'm going to create a new one. So I click create. I give the name, in fact here, I give the name practice. This would be even better. And here I give create new, and this is LBPIP. The name is good, no availability zone. It's up to you whether guys you want to enable the availability zones or not. So I'm okay with that at the moment. Click OK, and here just click add. So the configuration is been added here, and automatically one public IP address is going to be assigned to this load balancer. After that, let's go to the next one, backend pool. Let's complete here all these things. Now guys, what is the backend pool? The backend pool is the place where you configured all of your virtual machines which is running with the same web application. So here I'm going to click add a backend pool, and obviously it will ask you the name of the backend pool. So I'll give this HA backend pool. I think Habe pool. It sounds like a very bad name anyway, but I'll choose this one at the moment. So here guys, you need to choose, because as you can see right now we are not able to add any virtual machine, right? So you have to choose your virtual network, and at the moment I have only one, HAVnet, and automatically it identified, and as you can see that it allows me to add a virtual machine. And why I could see this option? Because I have not configured the public IP addresses on those both virtual machines. Keep in your mind. So configuration based on NIC or based on IP address, you can type the IP address space, that's fine, or you can automatically identify it based on the NIC. So I'm going to choose NIC at the moment. So just click add, and automatically you can see I have two virtual machine, HAVM and HAV2, VM2, I'm sorry. So choose both of these and click add. Automatically these both are being added here, which is a good sign. And if you're good to go, just click add. So backend pool is ready now. Let's go to inbound rule. I think it's fine. I don't want to create inbound rule at the moment. Although there's one more rule you need to create. That is a load balancer rule. I'll show you after I just hit click review and create, because we are good to go here. So when I click review and create, what it does, it starts reviewing the information we have provided. And let's hit and click create. So it may take some time, not so much. I think it's going to be less than 1 minute, I believe. And if it is earlier than that, that's awesome then. So let's wait for this load balancer to be created, because there's one more setting I'd like to show you. In fact, two. One is the health probe, which I keep calling heartbeat or heart rate, all these words, because I have seen that in a couple of articles people like to use these words. Heart probes are also exactly the similar thing. Don't worry, I'll show you and you can understand better. So guys, after you complete those two things, because here the purpose is pretty simple, we have added two VMs into the backend pool, right? The meaning is these two different VMs has the same web application, so it doesn't matter which VM is gonna respond to the people. as soon as the request will be received by the load balancer will decide based on this health probe or heartbeat or heart rate, whatever the name you called here, which server is currently not busy, and the request will be sent to randomly or simultaneously to these two different VMs. That's exactly the practical we are going to cover in AZ104, including the web application. But at the moment, I'd like to just tell you quickly how actually you can create. So as you can see, right now it's gonna update those network interface, and that's all you need to know right now. So guys, I'm going to just wait for some time. I mean, I pause this video, and as soon as this complete, oh yeah, even it does not allow me to pause the video. Anyway, because I really think so, Azure don't want us to wait that much. Anyway, let's go to the resource, because if I go back to home, in fact, here you can see I have a test load balancer. Just click on this one. Here you can find a couple of additional settings. First thing first, front-end IP address. That's what you need to know at the moment. So we have already done with the practice LB lab, or PIP, which has been assigned. And as you can see, we have a public IP address been assigned already. The second thing is the backend pool. So you can see I have two VMs. So as soon as this load balancer receives those requests, it will be automatically shifted to any one of them, which is less busy. That's how your load balancer works, because we have created a backend pool here. The third thing you need to keep in your mind about the health probes, because it is very important in terms of just managing your virtual machine. So in terms of configuring this, just click on add. Here need to give the practice, so it's a test health. I think it's right. Yeah, test health. So the protocol, because it's up to you which protocol you like to use, because guys, if you have configured a website or web server, everybody like to, or most people, in terms of a recommendation or the best practices, most people like to choose HTTP if your website is running on 80 port. Otherwise, you can also choose HTTPS. The port number will be changed to 443. Now, what we are trying to do it here is it just send a request on HTTP based request, and with the root directory to verify whether the web application is up and running or not. So if it is running, that's great, and it will in each and every 5 seconds. So that's a great thing. I think it won't wait so long. In every 5 seconds, keep checking. Hey, are you available? Hey, are you available? In how many servers we have added into the backend pool. And finally, if it identified that 2 time or 3 time, whatever the values you like to add here, is a consecutive failures that, okay, is not been responded by this one of the server, then it automatically identified as a wait state or just a disabled state, or you know, kind of a server is not available, that kind of information. So that's what is all about health probe. And once you click add, it is going to be added successfully, and we are good to go to configure the final load balancer rule, which can help you to deploy that server, or I mean that completion of that specific load balancer. So I'm going to wait for just another couple of seconds, and I'm sure the health probe is going to be created in just quick time. All right, so let's talk about us, guys. So how is going everything? I hope again, I know that Azure don't want us to talk much, and they don't want me to talk much anyway. So it's fine. Anyway, let's go to the last step, is load balancing rules, guys, because these rules are responsible for to ensure we are following the right health probe, we are following the right backend pools and everything. And don't worry, I'll show you what are the options we could find under this place. As soon as I click add, first of all, load balancer rule name. So I'll give HALB. That's it. Simple is that. Now, of course, front-end IP address. So front-end IP address would be, guys, now the IP address of this load balancer, because who is going to receive that request, right? So when you click this one, it's going to be done here. And obviously you need to ensure that the pool you have created should be selected here, so that, you know, request will be received on this IP address 20.110.189.32. So now the point is, whenever you publish your website, don't publish your website with your internal or private IP address. Use the front-end IP address of this load balancer, that is 20.110.189.32, and you're good to go. So as soon as request will be received on this IP address, is going to be transferred any one of the server available from the pool we have added. That's what the meaning here. And of course the protocol, TCP would be good. And port number, it doesn't matter, guys, because yeah, it does matter. It does matter because I don't know which port you like to use for your website. Maybe 80, maybe 443, whatever. It's up to you. So backend port, whether you like to use 443 or maybe 80, it's up to you. Health probe, because we need to identify that everything is running. So here, as you can see, we choose 80. So it would be good, guys, if we choose 80 here. Otherwise, it's going to be say, hey, my 80 server is not able to respond because we have not created the rule here. So, and yeah, guys, next one we have the session persistence. Just to tell you the background of this feature, it's a great feature, first of all. And Microsoft actually gives this option. Let's say you are working on a website, or maybe you are trying to customize something application on that website, and you are connected with the session, and you go away for 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes you come back. Obviously you want to start from where you left, right? So the exact thing is, guys, because this load balancer is connected in between you and your web server, right? So it is trying to create a session so that if somebody is back and try to customize something, the session is still established until the session is not completely closed by client IP address. So basically what it does, as soon as I choose client IP, so it just try to actually capture the IP address of the client IP address, and then just keep that information within load balancer. That's what I can say, and just verify, okay, this is the same guy who actually come back after 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever the idle time you would like to add. And just make sure, guys, this is important, because if this idle time, let's say 30 minutes, so I'll just increase that minute to how much? Yeah, 30 minutes. So if you can try to choose 40 minutes, let me see if I can do that. Yeah, 30 minutes is a maximum. So it would be good that you can set up for 15 minutes. And what it does for us, for 15 minutes, if that person is not available, it will just kind of idle time. And after that, the session will be closed. I think you get my point. So within 15 minutes, if you left something you're working on that website, you are happy to continue with your work, and it is not going to be stopped. Otherwise, after 15 minutes, session is going to be stopped. All right, that's what I'm trying to explain. And TCP reset, yeah, that's fine. Floating IP, you don't need to worry at the moment. It's all good. So if settings are good for you, just click add, and your load balancer is ready to use. Now, what you have to do, simply keep using this 20.110.189.32 IP address. That to be all, and you're good to go with the website deployment. It is easy, right? I'm sure that in terms of configuration, and this is the real world practical. Don't think I'm just giving you the brief idea and all that. No, guys, when we do this in the real world, exactly the same settings you have to keep in your mind, and you have to configure. Yeah, it is true. You have to talk to your superiors. You have to talk to the stakeholders, what exactly they want to configure in terms of the load balancer. But that's all you need to keep in your mind in terms of configuring load balancer. Yes, there are a couple of more settings like NAT rules, outbound rules, that we will cover in AZ104, including a couple of more settings. So I hope, guys, you find this a little bit helpful. So let's move to the application gateway configuration and understanding of that topic, and then we will try to learn a little bit more there. Now we are very well aware that what is the purpose of the Azure Load Balancer. Similarly, guys, Azure Application Gateway also works for you in a similar fashion, not exactly the same. So here you can have even more or much better options which can help you to deploy an efficient management for your web tiers or websites or web servers, or maybe any other web application you plan to configure within your Azure infrastructure. Now, how this application gateway is going to help you in terms of the deployment and what are the advantages, I'll explain you in this video. The very first thing is about the web traffic. So as you can see, when we talk about the web traffic, we are mainly focused on layer 7, which is an application layer. So keep in your mind, your Azure Application Gateway works on layer 7 because it has an intelligent system which can help you to redirect your information directly to the exact web tier place where you intended to go directly, instead of going through a web server, then open up directly link and all that. So you can simplify your infrastructure. It can help you to better balance or distribute your request to the right place while you're managing multiple different resources within your websites. Now, what does it mean and how it is going to help you to manage your traffic? So guys, let's take an example here. This user is planning to access the website called ha.com as an example. All right. So in ha.com, obviously I have different subsites. That's what you can call. In one of the site, I have all the images. I mean, lots of images, not one, lots of images, like wallpaper website as an example. And I have another website which has lots of videos available, like you have YouTube or maybe any other one. So what I have done here, similarly, I have actually created these multiple servers to receive the request, and these all are connected with the centralized storage server. Okay. Now, obviously, these storage servers has the content, but requests need to be managed by, or millions requests has to be managed by these servers. So as soon as the request has been received, that I don't want to simply go to ha.com, I like to go to the image directly. So what it does, this specifically this application gateway is that intelligent enough to read those all URL and automatically just redirect your information to this one instead of going to the your web server. I mean your main server, and then decide, hey, where you want to go, then again go back to this one. So first, if this particular request has been made by the user, because he might be aware about the direct URL, so the request will be go to the direct the workspace where exactly we like to go. Similarly, if the person is not interested in images at the moment and just type /videos, so instead of going to the ha.com, it directly go to this particular location. So this workspace is created based on this URL, just to give you one brief idea. In fact, you can also give the name of the video that exactly you like to see, because this example you can exactly see in your YouTube. As soon as you click on that video, it has a very random numbers or random name, that's what I can say. So exactly that information go to particular video, right? But imagine if everybody wants to access that particular video. So the Google certainly has this configured these kind of load balancers or application gateway in their environment so that the efficient communication has happened. It does not go to the youtube.com and then find out the information. No, because we are already aware where are these all URL based in which workspace. So it will be very much easy for the people to go to the direct place. And of course, it can allow to balance the load of all the servers running. That's one thing. And just like I mentioned, this is pretty much intelligent Azure Application Gateway load balancer that based on these /images/videos after ha.com, it can use those URLs and make a decision that where this traffic for HTTP or HTTPS need to go to. So that's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now, in terms of advantages, the very first advantage we have is a web application firewall. It's a full-fledged web application firewall is enabled so that you can create rules. You can block those requests. Maybe, maybe you don't want to give access completely to the video pool. Maybe you like to give the access to videos and certain like V1 version 1 as an example. Instead of videos, you like to give just access to V1. Similarly, you can create all those rules inside this web application firewall and you're good to go in terms of filtering, and everything is going to be taken care by your application gateway. Just like I said, this application gateway is based on layer 7, which is an application layer. So in that application layer, it has intelligent URL based routing, which I already explained, that as long as and as soon as it receive a request from the user with the proper URL request, instead of going to the complete structure, it just redirect to the direct place where we have all the videos and images, as an example in this place. And of course, the another good advantage of using this one is when the user trying to establish a connection from here to here, what it does, it actually is going to be a end-to-end encryption. So nowadays you heard from most of these WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or maybe Signal application or maybe a couple of other applications that they provide end-to-end application encryption, which means that nobody is going to intercept your session, your data, or anything is fully encrypted. So you are pretty much secure while managing your data. Whereas load balancer is going to be good, but you need to add additional layer of security about end-to-end encryption, just to give you a brief idea and differences in between these two. And yes, it can also start managing your VMs or your web tier separately. So don't worry about that. It's going to be work absolutely the similar way of your Azure Load Balancer. But yes, that what you can call is based on the network, whereas the IP address are main concerns or main thing in the picture. But here we have a layer 7, the URL based redirections. So that's the main difference between these two at the moment. But don't worry, if you think you're still confused with my wording, we are going to jump in the practical. At least I will show you and I will explain how exactly your Azure Application Gateway works here for you. So on the final step, let's learn that how we can configure Application Gateway and what are the options you can find as compared to the Azure Load Balancer. That's another question sometime I had in my mind when I do this Application Gateway for the first time in my organization. The thing is, guys, the Application Gateway does offer a couple of additional features which I will definitely discuss with you, and at least I will explain you that why you need to choose this and that option. Again, it's up to you how you like to move forward with your organization plan, because this session right now we have, obviously I'm not going to tell you each and every single small step because it is not required, like I mentioned earlier. But in AZ104, we are going to touch base all these points in terms of practical, and I will show you how exactly it works in the real world in case if you have your web application. However, today you are going to learn with me how you can start configuring application gateways, and I'm 100% sure if you follow all the steps, you are able to deploy this things successfully. However, there are a couple of additional things which may require later on. That's again your choice, that how you like to move forward later on the things, because just like I said, we are not going to touch base all the points right here, because I like to tell you this very clearly. I don't want that any one of you has been confused, but indeed you must be aware what is Application Gateway, and you must be also aware how actually you can configure in terms of AZ900 certification concern, or in fact based on knowledge. All right, so just to configure the Application Gateway, it's very simple. You need to, first of all, what I have done till before to start with the practical. So guys, what I have done is I go to virtual network, and in virtual network, I have separately, because I have already created one of the virtual network and I have connected two virtual machines inside this virtual network at the moment. So if I click here, as you can see, there are two network interfaces are been connected, and these are obviously from HAVM1, HAVM2. Both of these are 2.1. So what I have done here, I just simply go to subnets, and here I can choose either the default one, again, but I'm sure in your organization or in real world, you can find a separate gateway which is connected to a dedicated web tier servers which has been currently running. But anyway, both are in the same address space, so don't worry, we can choose this app gateway subnet, and we are still able to see both of the VMs which we have created under the default gateway at the moment. So just to be clarified, if you really want to be ensure that it's going to choose only the selected VMs. Make sure you must be very well settled down with your CIDR values, or in fact your address space configuration while adding a subnet, because adding a subnet is not a big deal. Simply click on subnet, give the name or your subnet range, address space range, and just hit save. That's all you have to do. So that's exactly I have done, nothing very special. And once I have been completed that step, I simply go to application gateway. And as soon as I click on application gateway, you can find this one right here. And it's obviously, I have not created any one at the moment. So let's begin and create this application gateway. So hit create. And the instance here, or the information here, is a little bit different from the load balancer we have configured earlier. So here we need to choose the right subscription. That's first thing, obviously. And of course, choose the right resource group, which is the HA, because I have already created this one. Give the name. So I give the name app gateway. You can give any name you like. It's up to you. Of course, the region, and make sure you choose the right region where you have created your VNet and your virtual machines. You have to choose the correct one. The important thing is, guys, for you to be aware is this tier, because here Microsoft offering 4 different things. One is with the standard. As you can see, if I click standard and standard V2, you can find some differences here. So if I click on standard, you don't find auto scaling options, right? If I click on standard version 2, which is quite an advanced version, and here you can find enable auto scaling. So remember that when you configure application gateway correctly, because obviously you need to consult with your team. Although, as far as my understanding concerned, we can change this value later on, but I always have a doubt with the Microsoft, because they may say later that, okay, choose it wisely, because if you choose this incorrectly, maybe you are not able to change later on. As far as, I want to repeat this again. As far as my understanding concerned at the moment, we can change, because I tried and configured this for my organization and I can change later on. But just keep in your mind, these are the changes, these are the differences you can find. Also, similar, guys, it's up to you whether you want a web application gateway to be involved in this application gateway, which is a web application firewall. And of course, if I choose web application firewall, you can see that here it's just the SKU, and that's simple. But similarly, you can add something extra: firewall mode, detection, prevention. Now, if I choose V2, of course, auto scaling, and most of the options you can find similar to the earlier one. So that's the only difference you can find while choosing the options. But at the moment, for the practice, I will choose standard. You can choose anyone. It's up to you. Now, what is the instances count? The instances count means how many machines or VMs you are assuming here in the instance, because it's gonna create a kind of instance for that. So yeah, of course, 5, 10, it's up to you. So I'll choose as a 3 as an example. It's up to you. SKU size, obviously, whether you want to SKU size a big one, because if you choose a big or large one, you have to pay accordingly. Remember that. So I'll choose a medium as a default, that's fine. And the HTTP version 2. Guys, by default, whenever the request is going to be sent to this servers, or you can say these backend pools, so it's going to be go with the HTTP 1.1, but it is also going to support HTTP version 2 or 2. If you want to enable it, do it, but by default it is disabled. Again, it's up to you how you like to move forward. Then we have, guys, the virtual network, because here, if you remember, we have created app gateway. I think you're probably aware. So if I choose HA gateway here, obviously under HA, automatically it will be start with the subnet, which we have created earlier, app-gateway subnet. So we are good here. If you like to create more, you can click add manage subnet configuration and go ahead with your further configuration. Anyway, let's go to the front end. Similarly, guys, here you also need to assign a public IP address to this application gateway. I am pretty sure you are aware about this, that this is really important, because all the requests is coming to this public IP address. But the good thing is application gateway even gives you more benefits here, because it can also either, not either you can choose both of these options, public IP address and private IP address, again based on your organization requirement. But at the moment, my plan is to deploy this application gateway to be working with the internet users. So I'm going to create a public IP address. So here I choose my pub IP. You can choose anyone you like. I choose my pub IP. So click OK. So it means that it is going to assign a public IP address to this application gateway. Simple as that. Then let's go to the backend, which is very important. Just like we have created a backend pool, similarly, guys, you have to also create a backend pool in the application gateway as well. No change, no difference. The only thing is the interface, the way to do the same step is a little bit different here. So if I click on add a backend pool as an example, first of all, you need to give the name. So I give the name my back pool. You can give any name you like. So add backend pool without target. No, obviously I like to add the targets. So what are the targets for me? Either you can give the IP address of the virtual machine, or you can choose a virtual machine or other options you have available. So if I click on virtual machine and I go to the target, you can see that both of the virtual machines are available right here. So choose the very first one at the moment. And of course, I like to add another one in my backend pool. So I will follow the same step, virtual machine. And here I choose the second machine. We are good to go. And I don't want to add any other one because I don't have any. All right. So just click add here. And once I click add, let's move to the next, which is configuration. Now guys, here you have some additional thing which you need to be aware. And of course, this would be really helpful to you if I just scroll down a little bit right under this place. So guys, during this configuration, I like to tell you that you have already added front-end IP, which is a public IP address. You also completed with the backend pool, right? If you don't forget. Now, we need to configure the routing rules. Now, this is exactly, we keep discussing in our theoretical concept or the part that application gateway allows you to directly allow you to redirect your information to the specific workspace or specific backend pool you have created. For that, you need to create a multiple backend pool and associate these rules with these backend pools directly. And of course, front-end server will work, or IP address, public IP address work in the same way. So if you want to understand the routing rules, I'll just hit on this add a routing rule. And then on the right hand side, you need to give the routing rule name. So I give the name, for example, my routing rule. I give this name. And here, listener name or any name you like, I give my listener name. This is just the name. The important thing here is the front-end IP address. And guys, the front-end IP address is the public IP address, right? If you remember, we have just created. So I click on public. So automatically it will follow the routing rule from this public. And as soon as it received, so which protocol you like to use, AD protocol or HTTPS 443? If you choose 443, we need to provide the SSL certificate. I think you're probably aware about that. You can get that certificate from your, delivery team who has actually purchased the certificate and you have added that in your web server. You need to provide that. But at the moment, I will follow the HTTP because obviously I don't have at the moment. And yeah, we are good to go here. So listener type is a basic or multi-site. So of course, it's if you have multiple locations for the deployment for rules or for your backend pool, then we can choose this one. But at the moment, I'll follow the same, the basic and error page URL. If you have any error page URL, then you can add here. Otherwise, yeah, in case of the bad gateway, forbidden, if you like to add any specific page. I mean, application gateway, really awesome. It provides you all these features, all these things in a very easy way, right? So once you're good with this, just hit on backend target. So if I click on backend target, what here you have to do, obviously, first of all, the target is a backend pool, obviously. And in terms of the redirection, you need to add any other information if you like to do that, because it's not a permanent redirection on a dedicated backend pool. But yeah, if you really want to do that, it's up to you. But at the moment, backend pool is right here for me. And I choose this one as a backend pool because I already created this backend pool with the name of my backend pool or my back pool. Now HTTPS settings, of course we need to configure the HTTPS settings for that too, because the redirection is based on HTTP and HTTPS both. So I click on add new. So give the name. What is the name of this one? So my HTTP. That's what I like to give the name, because I don't have HTTPS session at the moment because of that certificate. Cookie based affinity, yeah, that's up to you whether you want to enable or disable, so that's fine. Connection draining is disabled, it's fine with me. All settings I will leave to the default at the moment. Click add. But again guys, when you configure such options, I really highly recommend you to contact your application developer, that how exactly they have in their mind, or maybe your stakeholders who is responsible for configuring all these web server things. So it would be really helpful in terms of getting the right answers from the team, how exactly they want to look into this deployment. But anyway, we are following the right standards because that's exactly the same step you always follow in your real world. So my HTTP, and of course, if you have multiple targets, if you have multiple options based on the path rules, you can add. I'm talking about that URL based routing if you'd like to add. But at the moment, I will follow the default and click add. So we are good to go here, and obviously just hit tags if you like to add any tag. If not, then simply click on review and create. So as soon as guys, we are ready with all these settings, whatever we have configured, just hit create. That's all. As soon as this application gateway has been created, whatever the settings we have configured is ready for the backend pool, and whatever the web application we have deployed on this virtual machine is start receiving requests from the application gateway. And just like I said, guys, we can try it and test. Don't worry. If you like to try, you can test on this one. What you have to do, just go to these virtual machines, install IIS, because I'm using Windows operating system, is the Internet Information Services. And once you configure your website, you can try using application gateway. And yeah, don't forget to, it's a part of the troubleshooting, but I like to tell you that right now. When you actually configuring these practices, don't forget to check your network security group. And if you choose port 80 or port 443, make sure in inbound rules, you also allowed these port number like port 80 and 443. Otherwise, you are not able to access your website successfully. This is just a quick tip. And I'm sure that you like this quick tip right here, right now. So yeah, I think this is gonna be created very soon. And once it is created, we are good to go and check. I think we have already completed all the steps. That's what you need to be aware at the moment in AZ900. And why you need to learn all these steps? Because you must be aware where you have to go, what options you have to choose, and how you need to configure in case somebody tell you to do that. So while we are waiting for this completion, I'd like to say thank you guys for watching this video. I really enjoyed all these steps and all these settings, because there are tons of information for you. I know that, especially to the people who is not from the networking background. But don't worry guys, if you are not from the background of the networking, I request you to please watch the IP address topic I created. And I think for right now, pretty much it. But indeed, it might require a couple of more information in terms of deploying these solutions in your Azure infrastructure. And yeah, before to go, I like to once again like to say that thank you guys for your support, and I keep receiving those calls. I really do like those calls. Thank you, Nadeem, once again for your call. Rohit, you're always my favorite person, I must say. And just guys, keep in your mind, watch and learn properly. Don't miss out any information. If you like to have question, you can have those questions for me tomorrow, because right after this creation of this video, I'm going to generate a link and post that link to both my Facebook and Twitter handle, so that if you are following me, you will have those access, and yeah, we can meet tomorrow. And yeah, that's all I like to share at the moment. Nothing fancy and nothing more from my side. And once again, I hope you like the video, the content, and I hope this is gonna be helpful and informative to you. We are going to complete AZ 900 first, and then going to start cloud security later on. So at the moment, guys, everything is going well, and I like to say, take care and thank you for watching this video, because I have so many emotions at the moment. But anyway, that's fine, because I'm so happy whenever any complicated thing I deliver to you guys, and that is a reason I'm so happy at the moment. In fact, the time is 2 a.m. but I'm still happy. So guys, please take care of yourself, and yeah, we just need to wait for this to complete application gateway, and you're good to go. Nothing very special here. So please take care, have a good time. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye. Peace.